Get ready to be bedazzled by the glamour of the 1950s with a twist of the future. Meet our breathtaking porcelain fashion doll crafted by the brilliant Valentino Zubiri. She's not just a doll, she's a time-traveling fashionista from the 1950s space age. Dressed in an avant-garde embroidered multicolored dress, her ensemble sparkles with futuristic flair. Her makeup is a masterpiece of otherworldly beauty, and her fantastic hairdo defies gravity itself. Against a backdrop of dazzling space-age design, she struts with grace and poise, capturing the essence of an era that dreamed of the stars. Each movement is a dance of elegance, bringing you a slice of cosmic chic. This isn't just a fashion statement, it's a journey through time and imagination. A doll that stands at the intersection of history and fantasy, ready to grace your collection with unparalleled sophistication. Are you ready to take a step into this enchanted cosmos? The 1950s space-age fashion doll awaits. Get ready to be bedazzled by the glamour of the 1950s with a twist of the future. Meet our breathtaking porcelain fashion doll crafted by the brilliant Valentino Zubiri. She's not just a doll, she's a time-traveling fashionista from the 1950s space age. Dressed in an avant-garde embroidered multicolored dress, her ensemble sparkles with futuristic flair. Her makeup is a masterpiece of otherworldly beauty, and her fantastic hairdo defies gravity itself. Against a backdrop of dazzling space-age design, she struts with grace and poise, capturing the essence of an era that dreamed of the stars. Each movement is a dance of elegance, bringing you a slice of cosmic chic. This isn't just a fashion statement, it's a journey through time and imagination. A doll that stands at the intersection of history and fantasy, ready to grace your collection with unparalleled sophistication. Are you ready to take a step into this enchanted cosmos? The 1950s space-age fashion doll awaits.
Hi, my name is Valentino Zubiri. I'm an artist and writer, and I'm also into economics, so I'm going to be defining these things that I came up with them. Okay, eventually. I'm going to be discussing Bitcoin moment, metaphysical economics, Valsuber agenda, Dollman economics, Rumpelstiltskin economics, Noah's Ark economics, infinity pricing, and infinity economics. Okay, so just to introduce myself to you first, I am actually a writer and an artist, and I used to work in pension, and I was what's called an assistant actuary, and so all this are connected, and it's because of pension that I decided to pursue art and writing. So let me show you my books. Okay. So if you go online, you'll see my books on Amazon. Okay, that's Hocus Pocus lately. This is my more paranormal memoir. Okay, and then there's Wonder and 1 Hour Mentors. So just go to Amazon if you're interested, and you don't have to, but let me show you my entire. Okay, so I've published 9 books for myself, and I've helped others with their books as well. It's been many years that I've honed my skill in writing and publishing and everything in between. Now, I used to be a columnist for a free paper in Chicago, and that's where I learned how to make the newspaper, also edit, and also get into writing a column. Now, of the 9 that I produced for myself, these 5 are what I call my memoirs and memoirs of sorts. So I'm claiming to be the current living contemporary visual artist in the world that has the most memoirs. Now, I always say visual artist because other artists are out there, and I don't want to get in their space. And they would be like dancers, actors, musicians, singers, filmmakers, etc. So I'm just saying I'm the visual artist with the most memoirs. And do I need to prove it? No, because I got more coming out. Okay. Now I'm encouraging everyone to look into publishing, because books are permanent. Now I read this tip in, because way back in the late 80s and early 90s, I read a lot of books, and I'm actually a speed reader. And so there's this tip that I read that appeared the most in the books that I was reading. The tip was, if you want to lead in your field, write a book about the field, right? But in my case, when I realized that I can write even more, then I said, if I want to encourage other artists to do this thing, to write memoirs, biographies, art books, and art catalogs, and maybe other books too, because some artists right now, some visual artists are actually already published novelists, so that counts too. But the tip was, you have to write books because books are permanent, and that's how society perceives them, as opposed to pamphlets and brochures. They wouldn't last a month, but books can last like 1,000 years. And in the case of myself as an artist, then I was telling myself, you know what, if I have my art in 1,000 years, then I probably should have my books as well, right? So now I tell my fellow artists, why wait for somebody else to write about you when you can write about yourself? And self-publishing is now available. It's different from vanity publishing and big box publishing. That's the funny part, because I don't need big box publishers, because in my case, I released Dollman in 2012, right? And then I took it out again, and I re-released it in 2014 together with the last 3 books here, okay? And then there's Zubiri Agenda, which I co-wrote with Silver Perez, which is from 2018. And actually, in 2014, I released, instead of 4 books, I actually released 8 books, because I released 4 regular editions of my books and then 4 special editions of my books. So these ones that have the marquee right there are actually the special editions. So Dollman the Musical also has the special edition. So let me show you, okay? So as you can see, that's Dollman the Musical without the marquee, and here's one with the marquee, see? So just to rub it in, I released 4 books, right? And then I doubled it to make it 8 books for the effort of 4, Why not? It's my thing, right? And here's the thing: the one with the marquee, right, has this. See, it's a 2-page description of what I'm going to tell you here now, okay? Which is now what I call the Zubiri Agenda, okay? The hashtag Zubiri Agenda. Okay, see that? Now, as you can see, the way I designed this book, there's a repetition of the design, right, from here, and then in the inside. Wait, give me a sec. Okay, so that's here's the cover, and then it repeats the first time, okay, and then another time right there. Okay, and then did I repeat it again? So that's how I design books. Repetition of the design, okay, and that's in the back. Okay, so the reason for this is I also, like I said, I read a lot, and there was this tip that appeared in two of the books way back in the late 80s when I read them. The tip was, if you have an invention or a script or an idea, put everything on paper, and including the drawings, and then put them in an envelope, and then you go to the post office and have it, so the envelope would be sealed, right? And you mail it back to yourself so that there's a postmark, a timestamp of when that proves that your invention has been around since that date. Okay, so in my case, I came up with an idea, which is now what I call the hashtag Zubiri Agenda. And what I did was I released like the regular edition, and then this, and then I used the publication date for the idea that I described on 2 pages here. Right? So it's kind of ingenious. So in effect, I staked my claim on the idea in 2014, and then later on, I did the same thing. So there's the marquee, and then see that, and then by 2018, I decided to write Dollman the musical. No, in 2018 I decided to write Velocibur Agenda, and then I was kind of like, hey, you know what? It's the book of what I'm up to, and it's and I gave myself no other permission, no more leeway. Basically, I'm stuck now with the hashtag Velocibur Agenda because that's the title of my book, okay, which I co-wrote with Silvero Perez, who's also an artist, and he's actually looking forward to getting all this off the ground so that he can start doing what I call the hashtag Velocibur Agenda. Okay. So what's before I get to what hashtag the Velocibur Agenda is about, let me tell you something I learned from way back. Okay. There's something called the hierarchy of things. The way I perceive these things, right? Like I said, you can scale my idea up or down. Okay. And I learned this from way back when I discovered that the United States has different cities, right? So, for example, people from Chicago would go to New York because it's a big city, and there's the wow factor, right? Because they're going, they go visit, Chicagoans would go visit New York because it's a bigger city. Now, my friends from St. Louis and Kansas City and Indiana would come to Chicago for the weekend because it's a big city, so there's a wow factor for them, right? Now, people from Branson, Missouri would actually go to Kansas City, because it's a bigger city and there's the wow factor as well, right? So there's a hierarchy of things, right? And I discovered that as well with galleries. Even galleries have this hierarchy. So the bigger galleries would be in New York, and then the smaller galleries would be somewhere else. Or sometimes I guess Miami also has a big gallery thing, and then there's other cities. Now, when it comes to Chicago, it's a little smaller, okay, and so that's how I kind of learned. There's a hierarchy of things and leadership and galleries and even countries, right? So so this way, when I say you can scale things up or down, it's about that. Now, there's a hierarchy of like cities and counties and states and then countries, right? In the case of the U.S. And then there's, let's not forget, there's also labor unions. And once again, we're going to go back to using pension funds and as an example, for what I'm going to show you. Okay. Okay. So let me tell you about pension funds and what happened way back in the 90s, right? So I was once again reading books, and there was a tip in the books that said, while you're young, do as many projects and get into as many like interests as you want, because when you get older, you'll hopefully figure out which one you want and you want to continue pursuing. And also you might not have the energy anymore when you get older, doing all these things that you would have wanted to do, right? So in the 90s, when I was younger, I got into theater, and then I started writing a column for a free paper in Chicago, and I started getting into art shows, and I got on TV twice for my art statement, and then I got on the radio and print also. That's besides my regular column in that free paper, and eventually I learned how to make the newspaper as well, and now I'm publishing books, right? And then what else? And then I was going I was working in pension, and I was going to higher courses for applied mathematics and actuarial science, and I actually also passed the first exam for actuarial science. It's like a career exam that to make you an associate and then eventually a fellow. So I passed the first exam, and then I decided to get out of pension and get into art and writing. Okay? Now here's the thing. I was when I was having art shows, I would be asked by people, the visitors, how much is your art? And I would say a certain price, right? And in my mind, I was kind of like, but I was thinking, I was thinking of telling the people who asked me, who approached me, you gotta go past thinking about what I'm up to right now, because I do have a potential of doing bigger things in the future. So I could have said that, but I don't. I didn't. And then I was kind of like, you know what? If I tell people, for example, here my current price is 1x, okay, but what if I tell them my current price is 1x, and then but I have a goal of reaching 8,000x, okay, so maybe that would make them buy more or buy immediately what I have, because if I'm telling people, that I have a bigger goal and a bigger price, then maybe that makes a difference. So that's what I was thinking, right? So now, going to work, right? I was actually friends with the elected official, the treasurer of Cook County at the time. This Cook County is in Illinois, and the city of Chicago is under Cook County. Okay, so just so you know. So I was friends with him, with the elected official. He's passed on now, so I can talk about him now. He's passed on, but God rest his soul, right? But every once in a while, because I was working, he introduced me to my employer, and then I would be working like a block and a half away from him. So every once in a while, I'll bring a box of chocolates, and then we'd talk about pension. We'd eat while eating chocolates. And his number one complaint was that there's something called the unfunded liabilities that will keep growing and growing over the like so many years. So that was 30 years ago, and actually a lot of pension funds right now are even worse than before. See, there's something called the unfunded liabilities. So let me show you what I mean. Okay. So let me take that book out. So there's assets and liabilities, like basic business and economics, right? So assets would be, for the pension fund, the contributions of the currently employed, and then there's also, because the pension fund is a huge institution, just like other institutions, they invest the money so that they can make more, right? Because the contributions aren't enough to support the retirees. Okay, so now when it comes to the retirees and other benefits, there's actually the annuity, which is the pension. Okay, and then there's the refunds for people who decide to quit, or sometimes the retiree would pass away, and so there must be a refund there must be money left, right? So we calculate that. And then there's the death benefit, which is $1,000 that we give to the one who was employed or the one who was retired. And then there's the disability benefit, which is when you work and you miss days because you got sick, then you can ask for the disability benefit. Okay, now the pension funds would invest in the usual things, right? Stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities, precious metals, and lately cryptocurrency. Okay, so but it's still not enough. Okay, so I was going to school also, and I was in class, and I was just staring at the class was differential equations. Okay, and we'll go back to that. Okay, differential equations. The professor wrote this on the board. And then he said, define that in a sentence, right? So this, the one farthest would be a series of 11 numbers starting from 1, incrementing by 1, okay? So 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 plus 1 equals 3, 3 plus 1 equals 4, and so on, right? Now this one is a series of 11 numbers exponentially increasing by a factor of 2. So there's 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. So 1 times 2 equals 2, 2 times 2 equals 4, 4 times 2 equals 8, and so on, right? In 11 steps, you can go from 1 to 1024, okay? So I was staring at the board, and I was like, that's exactly what I want to do with my art, you know? Because I've been thinking, how can I say I want to go from 1x to 8000x, right? And here you see 1x all the way to 1024x. So who's to say that, we can add some more, right? So I was like, oh my God, my problem's almost halfway solved, right? So I went to my friend and I said, hey, you know what? I got an idea. And I said, I can pick up a rock and call it art, sell it to you for $1, and then you can go to your lending institution, your financial partner, your lending partner, and ask for a loan. And you can evaluate the art for like $100 million and then ask for a loan for that, right? So here's the thing, okay? It turns out lately, for example, like right now, because the economies are bad, that even the banks are in trouble. Okay, so pension funds are in trouble, and then the banks are in trouble, lending institutions in trouble, and then even cities, states, and even the countries, like in the United States, we are in trouble by a debt of $38 trillion, right? So this is why I'm saying my suggestion can be expanded or made smaller. Now, same thing, I'm reacting also to what happened on October 10 when cryptocurrency crashed, right? So maybe I can help that too, right? So I've been analyzing that, and I think I can, okay? So just be patient and let me show you everything, okay? Okay, so I went to my friend, I said, and I told him what I learned in class. Okay, and then, okay, so let me show you. As soon as I can change the screen. So I was kind of like, you know what? Your liabilities continue to increase because they're increasing in an exponential way. And the other one is that you're trying to solve the problems in an incremental way. So if you look at these numbers again, this is exponential and the other one's incremental, and this is why you cannot keep catching up, and you're trying to catch up with your unfunded liabilities. The difference between liabilities and assets, if the assets are smaller, then there's something that you cannot cover, okay, the liabilities part. And that's the unfunded liabilities. So the liabilities that the assets can cover would be the funded liabilities, and then everything outside that would be unfunded liabilities, right? So it's going like, you're trying to patch things up using an incremental formula, but on the other hand, you have problems that keep increasing in an exponential way, and that's your liabilities. And the other one is assets, and this is why you'll never catch up, So going back to my argument about assets and liabilities, then what you can do, you have to realize that your liabilities are compounding or exponentially increasing, right? Compounding is also exponential, and so you have exponentially increasing liabilities. Meanwhile, you're actually using temporary patches and momentary fixes for your assets, and instead, what you should look is exponentially increasing assets. Okay, and since you're into that, if you're if you analyze if there's any type of asset that can exponentially increase, it's going to be fine art. Okay, and you can't just use any fine artist. You have to use me. That's what I told him, because it's my idea. And it's your office, and we can work together. That's what I told him. And because your office, and then he goes like, yeah, exactly. It has to come from his office because he's an elected official. He could use the votes, right? So we kind of agreed, that we have to keep this secret, because what my idea is actually duplicatable by other pension funds, right? That's what we were talking about. So we kept it a secret, and unfortunately, my friend passed away, and he was in the 70s. He was closest. He was in the 70s when he passed away, and so I was the one who kept the secret, and I couldn't have help from him anymore, right? Because he's gone. And so I was kind of like, you know what, I need to just keep doing this, and all the way to the point where I can confidently present this. And it's 2025, and it's been 30 years, and I'm confidently presenting this now. I'm so sorry for my delay. Okay. Anyway, now here's something else, okay? In 2007, 2008, 2009, who got bailed out? If you're considering yourself to be in trouble and you're scared of the markets going down, and you're going to lose your money and your investments and maybe your company as well, then you have to remind yourself: are you on the side of the GDP, or are you on the side of the government and the debt? Central banks, governments, vaults, treasuries, Federal Reserve in the case of the United States, IMF, World Bank. Okay, so who got bailed out way back in 2007, 2008, 2009? It's the countries that IMF, for example, and World Bank, I guess, right? I think it was IMF that bailed out some countries, and so it wasn't just the United States. But in the case of the United States bailed out the companies that were going to affect their side of the government, right? Not the GDP. So my friends, I had friends who they had, one of my friends had 300 units of apartments, and the other one had 500. They lost it. They lost their apartments, right? Because they couldn't pay the mortgage because the tenants lost their jobs. Okay, so that's how they lost all their properties. So they were hoping to get a bailout. Some of my friends too, who owned condos, they were hoping for a bailout, but they didn't get it, and so they lost their properties as well. Okay, so this is why I'm showing you all this, okay? Because it's important. Okay, so let's go back to my face. Okay, so now I was thinking of this, see, going all the way from, if you remember, the 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, right? All the way to like when I showed you 1,024, right? Or 1,024,000,000, right? What if I go past that, all the way to like the $8 billion mark, and all the way to 16, right? And maybe even past that. This is the importance of the hierarchy that I told you earlier, because these numbers are not enough if I want to help entire countries. If you remember France, for example, they had rallies out in the streets just weeks ago, and it was violent. There was fire, etc. And they were complaining, included in their complaints. Their worries were about pension and welfare and insurance, etc. And the reason they rallied out in the streets, it's because all these benefits that they have, they actually are centralized. So the central government is the one that's in charge of them. And so for example, when the central government made the suggestion to convert 2 holidays back to working days, they did not like it, and that's why they went out in the streets. Now, in the case of the United States, it's the pension funds and health funds and welfare, and etc. They're fragmented. See, so you'll never see demonstrations in the United States like you would in France, but the conditions are pretty much the same. There needs to be improvement. Okay? Now, that's why I'm saying. I'm suggesting if there's anything that's even bigger than gold that that's set, right? It can no longer be cryptocurrency or stocks, bonds, real estate, precious metals, and commodities and cryptocurrency. the reason is they fluctuate in the markets, right? And so if the markets go down, then everything goes down, right? But there's only one commodity or asset that you can count on. It's art, okay? Because art can go from $1 all the way to like $100 million, like I said, and then even past that, all the way to here, right? And the only way this can not fluctuate is if the artists themselves, in my case, right? If I make an announcement of a schedule of increasing prices, why would I go down and fluctuate my price? So basically what I'm saying here is I made up a game, and if you want to join my game, then you're gonna have to like respect my rules, right? And my rules are that I will increase exponentially by a factor of 2, all the way to as much as possible, whatever. But if you don't like it, then go somewhere else, right? And now I reserve the right to change my prices. And this is why there's an update right there, and everyone's reminded, please follow the latest update. And then, like obviously there's the name of the artist and that the fact that he's following the hashtag Positive Agenda. Okay, now, so if I want to help entire countries, I have to stick to the 1,550 per price point, okay? And each price point, I call them tiers, right? TIERS. And so now a country would be able to afford these by not paying me cash. They can just pay me in treasury bonds, okay? And so scaling it down to your company, maybe, if you can afford, 1 or 2 pieces, then yeah, by all means, because here's the thing, right? If you got it at the low price, that's the early bird price, then you get a chance to get to the much higher prices, right? And this is what I call okay, let me define to you what the hashtag Positive Agenda is about. It's in 2 parts, okay? We artists can make an announcement of a schedule of increasing prices just like this, and reserve the right to change it as needed. And then also, because I was discussing this with my friend, and we were actually in agreement that we need to make this a little bit more challenging for artists, because any artist can make an announcement of prices, right? So we need to pass through the eye of a needle, and that's the idea. We come up with our books. Our books are forever together with our prices. And if I get on the side of the governments, then I would not be affected by any crash, right? And at the same time, the governments will decide, how much the higher prices would be, because we're going to get into the realm of inaffordability by retail investors, but the governments themselves would be able to still afford this, and that's where all this is dependent upon, right? Now, we learned from NFTs way back, when art pieces remain with retail investors, then the NFTs crash, right? Because it's prone to panic. But if the governments agree to holding on to the works, right, and they keep them in the vaults, then they can assign prices for them. Okay. Now, why do I believe this? Okay, here's the thing. Okay, I've seen, if you go online, you'll see like 9,500-year-old terracotta soldiers from China, right? And then there's 4,500 gold statuettes from Egypt, for example. And if only there was a papyrus that said this statuette was priced at a certain, was given a certain price, it was bought at that much, and then for a fact that it was like 4,500 years old. So who's to say that who's to say that it would be priceless? There should be a price on it. There should be if only the receipt also was like right next to the statuettes. That's what I was thinking, right? So in my case, because this is 21st century and we have PDF files and receipts and whatever, then who's to say that if I'm able to sell as much as like at the 4,000 range, right? And who's to say that, we cannot exponentially increase it some more all the way to 1,000 years from now when if you put everything in the vaults, right? So that's my logic, and I stick to it. And if you want to get my art, obviously you have to you either stick to my logic or you go away, right? So that's what I was thinking. Okay, now let me show you why I believe that this is possible, right? Remember, I said we stick to the 4,000 price, right? Okay, now this is 8,000, okay, 8.192. Just remember that, okay. So let me show you this again. So what if the countries, for example, get my art all the way to the 13th number, which is 4,096, right? Or no, wait to see. Okay, 4.096. I call it 4,096, but it's actually 4,096,000,000. Okay, so what if we get to that point, right? All the 1,550 number, the quantity gets bought. The last one who buys the 1,550th, right, has to be required to buy the first art piece of the 8 at the next price, okay, which is 8.182 billion. Okay, so that way I can officially say, hey, you know what, the art's been reached, the price that's been reached at the moment is 8.182. So we really just need one piece to be sold at that price, right? But your big question is, if you're with the early bird people, would you be able to resell the works at that price, right? And this is where I come in. This is what I call the Dollman economics, because I make porcelain dolls. And so if you want to resell at the higher price, or at the highest price, you should also be able to do that. And that's my way of contributing to society, so that all my works get upgraded to that price, right? And how do I do that? So let me show you. So we start at 1x, 2x, 4x, 8x, 16x, right? So that's any artist can do this, right? Any artist can come up with a schedule for increasing prices. But because I make porcelain dolls and dioramas, then obviously I can add more precious metals and gemstones like gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and gemstones into my work, right? And also I get the chance to be collaborating with other people because for example, with the dolls you can costume it, and so fashion designers might want to get involved, and the sets can be a collaboration with set designers and lighting designers, and then also I can add in virtual reality and augmented reality, so that I can add in more music and whatever else, and clips and videos, and maybe even poetry read by the poet themselves. So I can upgrade everyone's works. See, so the 1x doesn't just stay at 1x. It has to go to 1024x. See, and so this gold area is the upgrade, so that everyone's works will be at the topmost price that's reached. Okay, and comparable and competitive with each other, as promised. And so, if you're the early bird special people, and you got it at a certain price, then you're rest assured, as long as I keep the works, then it remains brand new. See, and I learned this from the galleries. And then, so I can upgrade because the inventory is intact, and I can be rest assured that the art piece wasn't, nothing got broken, scratched, smudged, no piece got lost, and no spray. That's no chemical that got sprayed on. So these things are important to make sure that the provenance is not only intact, but you can also be able to resell the works to the next investor, right? But at the same time, just be reminded that I am going to concentrate on doing all this and eventually reaching out to the countries, because that's the goal. Okay, so we don't stay with the retail investors. We stay, we eventually get to be handled by countries, okay, and their central banks, etc. So that's the idea that I have, okay, and so I call that the Dollman economics. Now, what's the Rumpelstiltskin economics? Okay. Remember Rumpelstiltskin, right? What happened to him? Okay, let me show you my face again. What happened to Rumpelstiltskin? He went to a kingdom at the Rumpelstiltskin hour, okay, and then he spun straw into gold overnight, therefore improving, whatever business he got himself into, or, in the case, we're just using a kingdom, right? So he went to a kingdom and then he spun straw into gold, improving the economy of the kingdom, right? So this is almost like I said, it has to be overnight, right? So that's Rumpelstiltskin economics. And Rumpelstiltskin hour would be 3 a.m., okay? Why is it 3 a.m.? Because supposedly the miller and his daughter had dinner with the king. Maybe let's put it in at 8 p.m., right? So why would Rumpelstiltskin show up at midnight when the girl's still not too worried and just, had her fill of a really good dinner, right? So most probably Rumpelstiltskin showed up at 3 a.m., right? Because he can be sadistic, right? So he made the girl squirm first before he showed up, right? Because like I said, she would be full and having enjoyed her dinner at midnight, right? And so by 3 a.m. she would be crying and worried. Okay, so that's the Rumpelstiltskin hour. Why am I defining it? This is like I've read this many times in the books that I read on business and leadership, etc., and ideas, right? There has to be an idea that you can tell your boss, that you can wake up your boss at 3 a.m. for. It's a must, not to be missed idea. And this is what I have, I think. This is an idea that I have that's limited. There's still scarcity, like I said, like I'm into economics. And at the same time, it might save your company or your friend's company, right? So this is the reason why you must really get in touch with your friend and say, hey, you need to get to know Val, because he's got an idea that just might work. So that's why I have my email address right there. Okay, so what's the idea? Let me see. Let me show you. It's almost there. Okay, so remember this, right? So I'm choosing the 1024x, right? I'm not choosing that farther one. It's also exponential, but it's increasing by a factor of 3. And so you can easily calculate, 1 times 3 equals 3, and then 3 times 3 equals 9, 9 times 3 equals 27, 27 times 3 equals 81. And after 81, it starts to get confusing, right? So we're better off doubling, okay? It's not harsh, doubling isn't as harsh as a multiple of 3, right? So I don't want that, right? I want this, but I'm going to go farther, because like I said, you follow the latest update. And all this can fit in one single PDF file, by the way. So if you think about that thing, right, a PDF file, and this trends amongst, as many artists as possible, because what if, I made so much money, right? Everyone's going to want to do the same thing, right? So it's going to trend. Now, here's the thing, okay? A single PDF file with an announcement of books coming out, right? And then the schedule for increasing prices. That's one single file. And if you can imagine an art expo, and everyone, all the visitors head straight to the table first to look at the sheets before they even look at the art. So that's how big this thing can be, right? So now just remember, so we're going to go past 1.024, and then now we're entertaining the much higher prices, right? And so that's where we're going to go next. Okay. So Let's change the screen. Okay, so remember we have 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and so on, all the way to like 1024, and then 2048, and then 4096, and then 8.196, 192, right? So if I require the country or the company who gets the last piece from tier number 13, I have to require them to get the first piece of tier 14, okay, which is $8.192 billion here, right? So if you look at the fourth column, you're seeing 20,150 art pieces, right? Because that's 13 tiers times 1,550 per tier. You're going to get 20,150 plus 1 from tier 14. So you're going to get 20,151. Now multiply that by the topmost price, which is $8.192 billion, right? You're actually going to get $165 trillion, as you can see on the rightmost column. Okay. Now, who's to say that we're going to stop there? Because, like I said, we're trying to get on the side of the countries, especially, most countries are right now in debt and desperate for an answer, right, for a new thing, right? And this is why I call this the Rumpelstiltskin economics, because I want to get into the countries like almost overnight, sight unseen, yet to be made art, bespoke art, and I'm willing to shut myself into, and stop talking to anyone just to do this. But I'm not really worried, because I already have friends who are gonna be willing to do this with me, right? Collaborating with me, and so I don't really worry about that part. And like I said, well, Picasso, if you research Picasso, he's actually made years ago when I researched, supposedly he made 36,000 art pieces. Okay. And then later on, like lately, if you Google Picasso again, how many art pieces he's made, there's some websites that would say it's between 50,000 to 150,000, depending on your definition of what's new. Okay, so who's to say that I'm going to stop here, right? Now look at that. So we get into a range that's no longer affordable by the retail investors. Okay, and let's zoom out. Okay. And that's where we're at, right? So we're actually trying to reach the much higher prices so that we can help the governments, right? And then, now here's the thing, okay? I actually have tier 1 and tier 3 reserved already. And so I can offer tier 2 and tier 4 for retail. And not only that, because of what happened to on October 10, I was analyzing the situation of cryptocurrencies, and if you think about countries, there's actually like 195, I think, countries in the world, right? And then if you look at cryptocurrency, there's actually more than 75,000 right now, and then it's going to increase to another 75,000 from my understanding in the future. So there's more cryptocurrencies now than there are countries, obviously. And so it's not just Bitcoin. Okay, how do we help the cryptocurrencies, right? So it doesn't crash as fast and as like what happened in last October 10. Okay, so here's the thing: I want to reserve the 2 tiers here, right there. So it's tier 8 and tier 9, right? And reserve it for cryptocurrency founders and programmers and the ones who are in charge of their crypto, right? So if they say, hey, you know what, we actually have Val's art, and that should provide some degree of stability in the minds of people. And if you're a cryptocurrency and compare yourself with who owns some of my art, and compare that to some cryptocurrencies that don't have my art, then congratulations, more people are going to be going over to invest in your cryptocurrency than others. And this is why I'm saying that it's possible that your cryptocurrency can even go past the price of Bitcoin. And the reason is you still have your headquarters, you still have your founders, and you still have your programmers, etc. as opposed to what's happening with Bitcoin, which is no longer doesn't anymore have the headquarters, no longer any real leaders, except for Michael Saylor. Okay, now let's go back to Michael Saylor in a bit, right? But we're looking at much higher prices right now, right? So who's to say that it's not going to go way past there and we get into infinity pricing? Okay, so that's my logic. And if you remember that 8.192, right? So in theory, let's say let's say my goal is to reach tier 13 for now, right? And tier 13 has the 4.096. Okay, is that right? Yes. Okay, 4.096 for the tier 13, right? And whoever buys the last piece, or that if a country buys all that, which is what I call a chunk, the chunk of 1,550. But remember, like at every price point, we need to get the next price point reached by requiring the last buyer of the previous price point to buy the next price point. So we can actually say, hey, you know what? It's official. The next price is reached, right? So the 1,000, let's say the 1,549 from tier 13 was bought by a country. It's easy for that country to also buy the first art piece from the next, so that that way, even that last chunk actually doubles in price because the next price has been reached, right? Okay, so if you look at the numbers here, right? Tier 13, multiply that by 1,550. That's 20,150 times plus 1, right, for the next price, the tier 14 art piece. Then everything is going to be valuated at $8.182 billion, right? So multiply 20,151 by the 8 billion, 8.192, you're actually going to get 165 trillion total. And that's because of Dollman economics, which is that I upgrade all my works so that everyone's works will be comparable and competitive with each other at the topmost price. Okay, so that's why I have all this, right? If you want to study this some more, then freeze it. Okay, but who's to say that we're gonna stop there, right? Because like I said, countries can pay me in treasury bonds, and so even the topmost, even the higher prices, like all the way to like the $1 trillion price, it can be reached by the countries. See? Okay, now here's the thing. Okay, we're just talking about current price. Now look at this. Like I said, 8.182 billion is reached. Like in 1,000 years, if you only add in if you only factor in the rate of 3% rate of inflation every year for the next 1,000 years, you're actually going to get $56 trillion. Okay, and then if you're too shy about that, if you just factor in like a 2% inflation rate every year, right, and get it up to 1,000 years, that $8.182 billion per art piece is actually going to reach $3 quadrillion. Okay, so who's to say that you would not entertain that at the point in time right now when you are desperate to save your company? And then here's something else too. Even your lending institution, your banks, are in desperate situation as well. And so this is kind of like a healthy, at the start, right? Just be careful, right? But if your own bank has art by me, right, and you own my art, and then you want to borrow money to save your company or whatever, why would they give you a really bad valuation? Because they themselves own my art. Okay, so they'll give you the best valuation ever. It's just natural and it's logical, okay? And as long as you and everyone else doesn't abuse this. Now, we're gonna go to Michael Saylor next, okay? But we're actually entertaining infinity pricing, okay? Because who can afford art in the sextillion quintillion dollars, right? Only governments can do that. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. We need to get past the GDP and get into the government side. Because that's the only way all this can be upheld, and with no worries about crashing. Okay, so what else can I tell you? Let's go to Michael Saylor. Okay. Let me let's take some okay. What about Michael Saylor, right? Okay, so we'll okay, this is Michael Saylor. He's like the boy in the dike story. Okay, so what the boy did, he found a hole in the dike, and he decided to stick his finger so that the water doesn't damage his town, right? So that's like Michael Saylor. He saw the opportunity in Bitcoin, and now and so he basically put his finger in the dike, and then now if he pulls it out, then he might cause the crash, right? So he's not supposed to do it, right? So that's where I come in, okay? Like a Rumpelstiltskin overnight. Okay, so how do we save Bitcoin? Okay, considering that Michael Saylor is what do you call that? A symbolic leader of Bitcoin, right? So that's why we need to make sure that he doesn't sell his Bitcoin, right? So as of a few weeks ago, when I checked, it was only 640,000 Bitcoins that that strategy owned, right? But now it's more. Okay, so at that price, when I checked, it was at $115,000, right? 166.9 per Bitcoin. So he would have a valuation of 73,706,816,000 per total valuation, right, from his Bitcoin. Now divide that by our magic number, which is $8.192 billion. Okay. Then in theory, he just needs 9 pieces from me, and then 9 pieces is actually priced at $2 million, right, for retail, and per piece, right? So that's $18 million as cost, and I don't believe in auctions, right? I have to stick to my price, and the valuation of, if we reach the valuation of $8.182 billion per art piece, then that would cover, or potentially cover, if that's a valuation over time, and that's not yet let's say that it hasn't been reached yet, but it will actually has the potential of covering the $73 billion that would be his Bitcoin, right? So he's not selling his Bitcoin, but instead he's hedging using my art at the cheap price of $18 million, and for that, everyone's going to be rest assured that he's not going to be selling his work or his Bitcoin, right? Okay, now here's something else. Okay, if his goal is to reach $1 million per Bitcoin, multiply that by 640,000 Bitcoin, then that's $640 billion. Okay, now $640 billion divided by my current goal right now of 8.192, we may not even we may go past that, right? But just using the numbers here, he actually just needs 79 pieces of my art to be able to actually reach $640 billion without having to sell his own Bitcoin. See, so basically what I'm saying here is, you really don't need Bitcoin. You can use my art and still have that valuation. But here's the thing, okay? We're talking about cryptocurrency here because, like I said, I care about cryptocurrency. And if you look at the people who lost money way back in just a few days ago or a few weeks ago, losing like so much money last October 10, then there's a way to stop. There's a way to have the investors be rest assured that their cryptocurrency would be a little more stable than what's going on right now. When if that company, if you're a founder, for example, or you're a programmer, just tell your group, to get my art and use it as a hedge and let everyone know that you own my art. Even if it's still, you trust me enough, sight unseen, yet to be made art, bespoke art, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the idea is to hold, to keep the value of cryptocurrency as stable as possible, so that you get even more investors buying your cryptocurrency. Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, like I said, there's 75,000 cryptocurrencies right now, and even more coming out. I cannot possibly supply them with, or everyone with my art, right? So it's a first come first serve basis. But if you can imagine this, if you get art from me, who's ambitioning to be on the side of the treasury and central banks and their vaults, then you're actually associating not only with me, but you're associating with everyone else. Okay. Now, here's the funny part about what I'm showing you here, right? There's no competition between. Everyone wants the higher prices reached, so there's no competition. Everyone wants a snowball effect of what I'm showing you here. So see this. You want a snowball effect to happen so that the highest prices can be reached. So it's cooperation, not competition. Okay. And that's a good thing about what I'm showing you here. It's the weirdest thing. Okay. Now, let me show you my work before I forget. Okay, so this is my art. If you Google Valentino Zubiri dolls, you'll see some of my works. Okay. So I can show you the summer look. Okay. Because I do have fur coats and whatever for the dolls, right? But then those are my guitars. I play guitar, and I have musical background as well. Now this is latex rubber for an animation stop motion project. Okay, it's stop motion animation. So the mouths move, the eyes will have also have sockets. It just hasn't been prepped yet, but even the cheeks and the brows can move. Because it's latex rubber. Okay. Okay. So more dolls. Now those shoes are. They're. Okay. So those shoes are 1 inch long. Okay. Now, I actually ended up on AI, so let me show you my AI that's based on my art. Okay. So this is a plaster mold, and from the plaster I pour in the, using the plaster mold I pour in porcelain. Now this is polymer clay. I start sculpting polymer clay, and then I make the plaster mold, and then now this is porcelain. Before painting, when I paint, I use what's called China paint, but it's actually microscopic ground glass that's different colors. And there's the ones that have been painted on. Now these that ground glass, that China paint has to go into the kiln like many times over to get the effect that you want. Okay, so. There you go. So what else have I not told you? Oh, my AI art. Okay. So I ended up on AI, and just before I show you, let me show you something. Where would I put it? Oh, here. See this? Oh, wait, here. Okay, don't use my name on the thing, okay? I'm the only one who can do that, okay? But if you, I want to show you this coffee mug because you might have ideas, you know. If you lost your job, yeah, just produce coffee mugs, you know, other merchandise like shopping bags, cell phone covers, shopping bags, stickers, and you can actually use my name. And you need to learn how to produce art, okay, using AI. And so let me show you some. So I like square because I can print two images side by side and use them on coffee mugs. So if you can imagine, you know, that this thing getting on coffee mugs. Okay, so the phrase you can use using my name is posable ball-jointed porcelain fashion doll in the style of doll maker Valentino Zubiri. Okay, you can also add in more adjectives. For example, like world famous. I actually use that. You know, world famous, world renowned porcelain fashion doll artist, doll expert Valentino Zubiri. It seems like you get to produce even more serious art pieces or digital images, you know, by mentioning like world famous, and you know, it gets. I guess the AI gets more serious, okay, and so you can ask for different costumes and whatever. Different stuff, you know, like different races, different sizes, whatever. So now here's something I need to warn you about. Okay? Sometimes the AI art generator would show, when you ask for a doll, they might show a Barbie or something that looks like Barbie, or something from Disney or DreamWorks. Or now don't also ask for costumes from video games, because you can get flagged for that. Okay? So if the dolls, if the images look like they are licensed images or copyrighted images, don't use them, okay? Because your store might get flagged, and if you're trying to make money, you're better off being on the safe side, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna stop this for now. What else can I show you? So I have nothing against AI, because my art is actually tangible art, and the good thing about my art is that it invites more collaboration, and because I can put in virtual reality and augmented reality into my art, then I actually am entertaining even animation using AI. Yeah. So who's to say that? Well, I'm looking forward to experimentation, and you know, like I'm not setting rules for myself now. Okay, I'm going to be as flexible as possible. Okay, so wait, let me see what else can I show you. So okay, now what's Noah's Ark economics? If you can imagine, okay, we're in a really desperate situation right now. So why would you you should entertain, you know, like Noah's Ark economics is when, you know, if you remember Noah's Ark, the story of Noah's Ark, Noah. Just because you're neighbors with Noah doesn't mean you're gonna get saved by the crash of the economy. You understand me? So that's what I'm saying. Noah's Ark economics is you have to acknowledge the fact that the economy might crash, and you might not be able to save yourself, not unless you come up with a really new idea, because all these years, or maybe even decades, you've been doing the same thing over and over. And so here I am, Rumpelstiltskin. I'm trying to make a difference in the world. And I cannot help everybody, but like I said, if you look at my email address, yeah, there's hopefully I can help you. Okay, and let's get to know each other. We'll do Zoom meetings with everyone else. You'll get to meet more. I cannot scam people. You know why? Because like I said, my goal is to reach the much higher hierarchy of people, which would be leaders of countries. And I've actually started making presentations, and I have bigger plans too. Okay, so art expos, yes, eventually I'd be able to sponsor an art expo, and I have a goal, because I come from the Philippines, and I want, like attention. Art, art in the Philippines, it's really good, but there's no international attention yet. Now, something else too. I come from a good university in the Philippines, right? So we also need attention for the universities in the Philippines, especially if I'm into fine art and other things, including economics, right, and business and whatever. And this is something that's new, right? I'm in what I call the Bitcoin moment. Okay, so what's the Bitcoin moment? Let me show you. What is a Bitcoin moment? So Bitcoin moment is when, if you remember, Bitcoin used to be less than a penny all the way to 10 cents, right? So that was the Bitcoin moment, the cheapest point that we could have gotten into. Now there's a regret factor. We actually regret, we wish that we bought Bitcoin when it was like at that price, right? And then there's the parabolic growth. So from less than a penny all the way to $100,000, that's huge, right? And now we're entertaining reaching $1 million per Bitcoin. Okay, now here's the thing. What I'm suggesting for myself is actually it's the new thing. It's a new paradigm, a new way of approach that others have not yet done, right? So it's kind of like Bitcoin, which introduced this cryptocurrencies, the concept of cryptocurrencies. And before Bitcoin, there wasn't anyone or anything. At the very, at that went commercial. I think there was one or two, right? Or, I can't remember, but it's the original. Bitcoin is the original cryptocurrency, basically, right? That everyone knows, right? And so it can be. It's been duplicated, and that's why I'm saying there's 75,000 plus cryptocurrencies right now, but they cannot reach the Bitcoin moment, or they cannot reach what Bitcoin's achieved, which is like to get to the $100,000 price points, all the way to like hopefully the $1 million. But because now I'm here and I'm saying my art might be the hedge, and the story and the association that cryptocurrencies might need, so that everyone's rest assured that cryptocurrencies, that would be holding my art would be more stable than the other cryptocurrencies. There's a chance that if you get my art, more investors are gonna be investing in your cryptocurrency. Okay, so that's a consideration. That's why I'm suggesting that you look into getting my art. Okay, and I have, like I said, I have a special price point for cryptocurrencies, so that just to make sure that that stage, those two tiers are reserved for crypto, for the companies, for the founders and the programmers, right? Okay, now what else can I tell you? Okay, metaphysical economics, okay, and infinity pricing. So we go back to infinity pricing right here, okay. So we get to the range where it's no longer affordable at all, even for countries, right? So the only way that these prices can be reached is if the countries themselves have a consensus and an agreement that the higher price can be reached, so that they wouldn't have to. So that it's a given. The numbers are given just like math, right? And they're able to be as flexible with their budgets for the countries as they want to, right? Without having to worry about, getting into debt or anything like that. That's my main thing, and this is why I may be the man of La Mancha of this generation, okay, or the Rumpelstiltskin, really crazy. But if it's not like no one is gonna want this, right? Especially because we are in the age of desperation right now and over leveraging, okay. So, and once again, I have tier 2 and tier 4 for retail. I have reserved tier 1 and tier 3 for 2 countries already. And then corporations will still have a chance, just in case if we, for later, right? We're going to talk about that later. But there's a tier for corporations, and then there's also 2 tiers for cryptocurrencies. And we're attempting to make crypto, like even more stable. You know why? Because we're trying to reach infinity pricing. You know why? Because we get to a point where, for example, this 21st century, like I said, Elon Musk, for example, is asking for a salary of $1 trillion, right? That's a number that would not have been like talked about way back in the 20th century, and now we're entertaining that. And who's to say that he's the only person who can reach $1 trillion? Okay, I'm obviously going to reach $1 trillion, right? But what about you? Would you like to reach $1 trillion for yourself? What's the big deal? It's only money, right? It's only numbers. Like I said, here's something else too. I've been chatting with ChatGPT, right? And I have ChatGPT actually said that computer programs like ChatGPT and other programs, right? If humans start using it for numbers like these, number crunching and whatever, they wouldn't flinch. Unlike us right now, like even I would laugh at my numbers, okay? And like I said, the only way we can reach the higher numbers is which is called infinity numbers, right? Is if countries themselves agree to what I have, right? And so here's the thing. Remember way back, I said me and my friend, the elected official who's passed on, we said we have to keep this a secret because it can be duplicated by others. But now it cannot, because I stake my claim on my ideas. I've been posting my chats with ChatGPT about all this on my blog, which is valsubirijanda.blogspot.com. Okay, and I have actually. So what I did actually, if you think about it, is take a claim on my ideas by being public with them, right? So, and I call this the basic, that first 2, publishing memoirs, biographies, art books, and articles, and coming up with the exponentially increasing prices. I call that the Valsubirijanda. So everyone's going to be saying, hey, you know what? I'm following the hashtag Valsubirijanda. It's free marketing for me. Okay, so I'm the go-to person right now. And I came up with this, and I have my Bitcoin moment, and no one else can match me now. And it's I'm the apex and alpha artist that will be used, and hopefully would get to the much higher prices. And now I'm actually saying that it cannot be duplicated anymore. Okay, so so the idea is now inevitable, undeniable, unignorable, and unduplicatable. That's me. I'm talking about myself. So, who's to say that it cannot happen? A lot of us are in desperate situations. We need to save our companies and our concerns and our investments. And I'm just saying, hey, you know what? Use the Rumpelstiltskin economics, and use me, because I would be the first and foremost artist, and everyone else would not be able to do this. Not right now. Not unless I take off, So why not, right? Okay. So let's see. What else can I tell you? If you think about numbers, right, Do you remember Bernie Madoff in 2008? He was found, right? He was discovered to be doing a Ponzi scheme. And all those years from the 1970s all the way to 2008, he was hiding his secret, right? And then he got found out, and he probably had the moment, where he knelt and prayed to God and said, "Oh my God, please give me a Rumpelstiltskin moment." And I wasn't around yet. I actually was, when I saw that, I was kind of like, oh my God, I could have helped him if only he could have, he wouldn't have to go to jail, right? If I approached him and I said, "Hey, you know what, I can help you overnight." Okay, so now the countries I would like to help would be like, especially France. I don't want to mention other countries, right? But France presents a good opportunity for me to be able to help, right? And then there's a few other countries that I really would like to help. Now, here's something else too. If you know about the mega cities that are being built in the Middle East, okay, there's at least 3 countries that are famous right now for mega cities and investing in art. Okay, it's Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia, and they want people to come over and invest in them, right? So they can use my art as incentives to get people over, and use my art as a bonus maybe for those investors who would like to go there, right? So what I'm saying is, these countries, I wouldn't mind, going there and producing my art over there, because they can easily adapt, what I have here, and they want people with stories, and they want people to come visit and have stories to tell when they go back, right? And I'm looking forward to collaborating with others. Maybe they can speed that up. And that's another prospect. Okay. Now I'm from the Philippines, right? So I'd like to also be able to help the Philippine economy, right? So there's many possibilities, but at the same time, right now, I would like to help as much retail investors and as many cryptocurrencies and others. And also, if you go back to where I started, which is pension funds, I'd like to help as many pension funds as possible without even like dealing with entire countries yet. And something else too, I have friends who are labor union people. Okay, so I'd like to help labor unions as well, and I know the struggle. I'm going back to my roots, right? It's some pension funds there are some pension funds that cannot make a mistake with me. Okay, I would like to help them, and they know who they are. And then there's like budgets of different governmental whatever, like units, okay, and they know who they are. I would like to help them, okay, and once again, labor unions, okay, very important. Okay, so thanks for listening, and I'm gonna show you a few more, and I'm gonna add some more if I forgot anything, okay, but for now, thank you. Okay. Okay, let me tell you about metaphysical economics, okay. So let's go back to the list. Okay, so we've defined Bitcoin, moment, and metaphysical economics not yet. Hashtag Values Agenda we have. Dollman economics is when I upgrade works to become comparable and competitive with each other at the topmost price. And then there's Rumpelstiltskin economics when I get into when I show up and spin straw into gold for countries themselves, and maybe for your companies and your concerns, right? Your investments. Now, something else. Noah's Ark economics is because right now, we might all, it's worse than Rumpelstiltskin. Rumpelstiltskin keeps smiling, but the economy right now might be worse, right? So that's Noah's Ark economics. we need to do something now, and we need to make sure that we get on the ark, to be saved, right? Okay, infinity pricing, I already said, something about that. And then infinity economics is if you start expanding, this possibility and flip it over to what you're up to, that's infinity economics. Okay, like for example, when you start thinking in exponential ways, not just the numbers of my prices, right? But you think about what about your approaches? Like for example, you take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? There's a saying, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. In my case, I always go like, what if I go like 100 steps forward, just in case, if I go 1 step back, then all the better, right? But if I go 99 steps back, then that's still okay, because I would have learned a lot of things, by and realized a lot of things by that time, right? Okay, now here's something else. What about metaphysical economics? Okay, this is the weird part, okay, because this is based on my book. Well, no, this is what I talk about in the book, Hocus Pocus lately. Okay, so what is metaphysical economics? I would not have the perseverance and patience of doing this for like 40 years or 30 years, if I didn't believe in God, okay, and that if I didn't believe that God is my partner, right? So I believe that God's been guiding me all this time, right? But I go past that because in 1986 I was my term paper was about psychic surgery in the Philippines, and so I got introduced to a psychic surgeon for my term paper. He actually can do it. Okay, he can open skin without even a knife. It just opens up. With a wave of his hand, and then when he waves it again, the wound would close. Right. So he does have power, and he actually showed me his methodology is everything is based on the Bible. Okay, so he's Christian and he's able to do something that's incredible, and he also said something about when you see something that's almost impossible, then your faith becomes a little more like factual than faith, right? And so it's like the doubting Thomas, to see is to believe. So around that time, when I already had like this mindset, on the last day that I was there, because I spent 4 months. Okay, every Sunday he had the service. So the service was from 2 p.m. all the way to sometimes 10 p.m. depending on how many patients he had on that day, right? So after 2 months, I was able to do my term paper. Okay. But I still stayed for another 2 months, and they told me, Val, don't forget to show up next week, right? And so I asked why. They said it was their anniversary, or it's our anniversary. They considered me to be part of them at that time, right? So I went there on the last day that I was there, right? And it turns out one of them would go into a trance, okay, and identify. That person, well, the lady identified herself as a saint, like later, okay, but they had an election of officers, and so it was a round table, and she gave pointers to all the people, the newly elected officers, and the psychic surgeon. And so we all thought it was over, right? And that was my first time to see something like that, right? But instead of it being over, like after giving instructions and pointers to the people around the round table, she craned her neck towards where I was, and she said, "There's somebody new here," and she gave me pointers, and then she said, "Everything that you're going to be getting into in your entire life is exactly what God wants you to do." I was like, oh my God, I got so spooked that I didn't come back. But she said, you're gonna disappear for a really long time, and you're not coming back for for a while, for a really, really long time, right? And then she said, everything that you're gonna do is exactly what God wants you to do, right? But it wasn't specific, right? So everything that I do believe that it's part of my connection with God, right? And that's why I'm doing this, to make a difference in society. And if this fails, then I'm gonna move on, right? And see what else God might want me to do, because all this like a guessing game, right? I don't know what God wants me to do, to be honest with you. Okay, now here's something else, okay? That was my first paranormal thing, right? That I did talk about that in my book, Hocus Pocus lately. Now there's something else, okay? On 9/11, on the eve of 9/11, I woke up at 3 a.m. and I thought I was surrounded by shadow beings, because I like watching those documentaries about ghosts and the paranormal and UFOs, right? So I was thinking, oh, shadow beings, right? And I got scared, and then I forced myself to sleep, and I found myself in a lucid dream, right? I call it a vivid dream. And I saw office workers coming out of smoke, and then soldiers going into the smoke. And then I kind of realized that the smoke wasn't smoke; it was dust. And then I also realized that the place we were in was a fire escape of a building, right? So that explains why there's only one light source. And then I woke up, and then I woke up because my friend who owned the gallery called me, and I let it ring, because I was so tired, and then it rang again, so I answered, and she said, "Turn your TV on," right? So I turned the TV on, and there was my dream, So 9/11, right? Now there's something I discovered. So in 2014, 13 years later, I released this book. So I was writing from 2013 to 2014. So I said I had two paranormal experiences, right, in one night, and it was the 9/11 experience. And then I said I discouraged myself from doing it again, right? I didn't want to be. I didn't want to. It wasn't comfortable, to be, getting into this, right? So, but there's something I discovered that that made me think twice, that I probably should share this with people. Okay, so let me change the screen. Okay, so on that night, I was sleeping on an air mattress that deflates every time I wake up, right? Because there's like microscopic holes. So I force myself to sleep as fast as I can, and then so I'd be comfortable when I start sleeping, and then by the time I wake up, it's deflated, right? Now something else too. So I woke up when I woke up at 3 a.m. It was already deflated, and something else. Okay, I had the 100-foot cord, telephone cord, and I you know how you collect it using your elbow in your hand, right? And I placed it under my head, under my bed, so that by the time I woke up at 3 a.m., it was my head, my pillow, and a deflated air mattress, which is plastic, which is like an insulation, right? And then under that would be the 100-foot telephone cord. And if you remember 2001, right? We all had we started having cell phones, but when we're at home, we would have landlines, right? So that was connected to a landline. I think that gave me ESP. Okay. So that's my metaphysical thing, right? Now something else. So what I'm suggesting now, because here's the stupid part. Okay, I discovered that what happened to me then satisfied the Joel 2, 28 to 29 prophecy. Okay, so let me show you this. Okay. So if you read 28, your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall have visions, right? And then 29 says anyone is going to have this worldwide, right? Now, I'm Catholic, and we were never required to read the Bible, you know, from front to from the entire Bible, you know. We were never required to do that. So I never knew about this until 2024, you know, last year, when I was watching YouTube and this was mentioned. I was like, oh my God, you know, my two events that I described in my 2014 book, Hocus Pocus Sleepily, actually satisfied the three conditions of number 28. Okay, and then everyone would be able to do this, and this is why I'm telling you right now that you might be able to do this. But here's the thing. Okay? What I'm going to tell you, you should not do if you're mentally unstable, and if you're a kid, if you're underage, if you have cochlear implants or maybe a metal plate on your head, or you have a pacemaker, or you might have a heart attack because you don't know what you're going to see, right? And then, so only do this if you're healthy, okay? And then if you're not healthy, then ask your friend to, or your relative to do it for you, and then see what happens next, and you know, you'll be just fine, right? Okay, now here's the thing. As you can see, 28 and 29 might be fulfilled by what I'm going to tell you here, but 30, 31, and 32 would be, if you see that the word "and," A-N-D, right? It means whatever, if we're able to do this to fulfill the Joel 28 to 32, 28, 29 prophecy, we're going to have to be ready for the 30, 31, and 32. Okay, so that's why I feel like I have to share this with you, because I know it's worth it. You know, well, obviously I have foresight, and I've come up with my own ambitions that just might work. You know, after more than 30 years of work of putting things in. And I still believe in my projects, my ideas, right? It's because of my metaphysical economics, okay? And so, if you just lost your job and you feel like you're in an unknown situation right now and whatever, if you want, but don't, I'm just saying, you know, like, be careful, okay? And once again, because you're going to be using cords that are connected to something electronic, right? Make sure that you don't have roommates that are going to think that it's a funny situation if they pour water on you, because you're going to get electrocuted, okay? So make sure you tell your roommates, the people you're living with, not to joke about this, because this is kind of serious, okay? And if you're a parent, for example, and you have you don't want to do this with your kids, you know, because not only are they underage, but if you share like wires with them and you try to sleep together and whatever, I would not recommend that, because you know, your thoughts might transfer to theirs, and you know, you might have secrets that you don't want them to know. Okay, so let me show you what I'm up to. Okay, I call this now the ESP cord setup. Okay, so let me show you. Okay. Wait. So ESP cord setup, because a lot of us don't have phone lines anymore. So I was going back and forth with ChatGPT, and I was kind of like, what about these cords, right? So if you have a phone line, then get a 100-foot cord and sleep on it. But make sure that you have a insulation, right? Like, for example, when I did this way back, I had a deflated plastic air mattress. Okay, so if you don't have a phone cord anymore, or you don't have a working phone at home, then try electric and use. So this is what I did last November, and I actually had vivid dreams. Okay, so it wasn't scary, like. But here's what I had. It's a 100-foot electric cord, and the end has this. You know, it's a night light. Okay, now you can experiment with night lights, because this is still incandescent, and LED night lights are like 1/10 of what this is. See? So you really just need something that's really, like, if you think about the phone signals, it doesn't like use up so much electricity. So it's the same with this, So you can, don't put a blender on the end of it, and make sure that it's like 100-foot cord with 10 feet of slack, from both ends. So your electric socket must be 10 feet away, right, from you, to be safe. And then this should be like 10 feet away from you as well. And don't cover it because it lights up, right? Do not cover it with anything that might burn. Okay. And my suggestion is just put it away from you and just get used to the light. Okay. Okay. Now I also tried, like turning it off, and it still worked. So I guess it's the electricity that's circulating. So you don't have to turn it on, but you can experiment if you want to spend the night, with the light turned on or turned off, right? And then make sure that, like I said, that your plug is away from you, and make sure that your cords are not, you don't put together like 10-foot cords, because those are live wires, and they're exposed, right? And you don't want to be electrocuted. And make sure that you don't, like pee in your bed, right? Okay, now another setup would be Ethernet cord connected to your computer or laptop, right? And then also, so you turn your laptop on, and like if you try to experiment, with it on or off, right? And then just close the cover, so you wouldn't be bothered by the light. And same thing if you have a 100-foot coaxial cord for your cable. Yeah, you can use that too. But I've never tried that, and I've never tried the Ethernet cord. Okay, so I've proven that way back in 2001 that the phone cord works, right? And then the electric cord worked for me last November. Now, if you start getting headaches, because I think what happened to me on 9/11, because I already, how do you say this? I had my phone cord. I've been doing it, like putting it under my bed, for like maybe 2 weeks, and then 9/11 happened. So I was thinking maybe it's a coincidence, that 9/11 happened, and like at the time when I was already sensitive. Okay, now here's something else, okay? Because it might only be working for me or with me, like what I'm telling you here now, because okay, so that's 2001. So 1986 was when the lady went into a trance, right? And then 2001 was the 9/11, right? Now in 2013, my dad had cancer, and I forced myself to follow the directions of the psychic surgeon of how to become a little more spiritual. So that's exactly what I did. I became a little more spiritual, and I described that in my book, Hocus Pocus Lately. And one time, and I think it was in September, on a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Thursday, my body vibrated, and I felt close to God. Okay, so I wasn't afraid, and I was going like, maybe this is a spiritual experience, right? So my body vibrated on Monday, and then while I was in bed, lying down, right, and then it vibrated again on Wednesday, and then it vibrated again. My body vibrated again on Thursday, right? And I was kind of like, oh my God, this is a really great massage, right? So I turned myself to my right, and I wanted the massage to be, so I wanted to be on my stomach, so I can experience the massage on my back, right? So that was what I was taking. I was taking it for granted, okay? And when I did this, I felt a hand, like grab me from here, from behind, coming from behind, and then grab me like this, right? And it was forcing me to turn back, right? So I figured, hey, you know what? Maybe it's dangerous if your body's vibrating that way and you're on your stomach, right? So I turned back, right? So I was trying to go against it, and then I finally said, okay, well, if you need me to be on my regular position, then so be it, right? So as I turned back, I looked at the hand, and then I looked at who it was, right? It was a being of light that was just a silhouette. It wasn't like really bright, but it was a silhouette that was all white. Okay, it's white light. Okay, even the hand was white light. Okay, and I wasn't afraid. I should have talked to the being. I should have said, hi, who are you and what are you up to? But I didn't, because I was taking for granted. Because I was thinking, you know what? Maybe it'll visit me the next day, right? On Friday. It never did, right? Okay, so if you need more information, you have to read my book. Okay, now, so that was in 2013. Okay, my dad passed away on the eve of Thanksgiving. That's a good sign too, So I was calm, and I felt like I'd done everything for my dad, by praying and going to mass, etc. And I wrote about that in my book. And what else can I tell you? I've had other experiences. So after publication, I've had more, and that's why I plan to write another Hocus Pocus Lately Part 2. Now in 2015, I got interviewed on the radio. It's a syndicated show, and they have based in Toronto, I think, and I don't want to name his. I don't have permission to name him, but he interviewed me. Okay, so because I've been reading, because I've read way back, I've read about becoming famous. I didn't want to be famous because of this, so because I want to be famous for my art. Okay, and so I didn't promote myself any more than what I did, way back, and now I kind of figured, with ChatGPT telling me, I have to tell people, I have to be as transparent, and I have to list all this and call this metaphysical economics, because if not for this, I wouldn't be believing too much in my ideas. Okay, now here's something else. Okay, see that I have 4 feet of hair. Okay, and okay, in 2012, I prayed to God as I was coming out of where I got my hair trimmed. It was already long, but I had it cut a little. So I said, "Hey God, this is February 2012, right?" I said, "God, I'm gonna make a sacrifice. I'm not gonna get a haircut anymore. I know it's difficult to maintain, because it's long and it's gonna get longer." And so 2012 was my last haircut, and because I offered to God, right? And then this is another stupid thing. Okay, it was only, I think, this year, 2025, when I was going. I finally said, asked Google, because Google has AI, right? And so I asked, is there anything in the Bible that has anything to do with long hair? And Google said yes. Samson had long hair, and then AI identified 2 more. Samuel, who's supposed to be not necessarily a prophet but a priest. Okay, so there's this person named Samuel, and then there's it turns out John the Baptist also had long hair, and the belief was a Nazarite dedication to God. When you're supposed to not cut your hair, and then not touch the dead, right, and then not have any grape products. That means wine, I guess, right? So, well, obviously, I've only decided not to cut my hair, but I haven't touched the dead yet, right? And then with regards to drinking, I would drink occasionally, but lately I have not. So uh, I would still drink wine, grape products, but I figured, like just having the long hair is fine. And it turns out it's a Nazarite belief, Nazarite, or Nazirite. And supposedly the altar that you do this some ceremony or whatever got destroyed, many thousands of years ago, I guess, or no, not thousands of years. Well, obviously, around between now and John the Baptist's time, I guess, right? So I consider myself to be a Nazarite, and according to the internet, if you consecrate yourself like a Nazarite, there is no turning back, because the altar is gone. It's been destroyed. So you would be a Nazarite forever, even if you cut your hair. Because there's no ceremony to get you out of that. So that's where I'm at. Okay, this is why I'm saying I cannot just I can't just scam people, because I have this belief, and I have what I call the metaphysical economics. And this is really funny, because Peter Thiel, for example, was talking about the Antichrist, right? Remember? And somehow the leaders, if you go look it up on the internet, or maybe if you have ChatGPT, they're gonna explain to you. They're gonna mention to you all these like current leaders who are being philosophical and metaphysical and religious to a degree, and so I guess I'm gonna be in good company if I succeed, right? Okay, now what else can I tell you? I guess that's it. So I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening, and if I forget anything, I will come back. Now I'm gonna add in a few more of the videos that I came up with. I actually have a lot of them, so I'll post them on my blog. Now here's something else too. Okay, before I forget, let's go back to my email. Okay, so if you want more information, and you can email me and ask me questions, okay? But if you go to my blog, valzubiriagenda.blogspot.com, remember I said something about staking a claim on my idea by being public with it, and I use the dates of publication of my books for staking a claim on my ideas, right? Now, also in 2014, I also issued a press release, and I paid for it so that it's right now still around and permanently online. So if you Google Valentino Zubiri press release, or PR Newswire, I guess, and then August 19, 2014, you'll see the press release, and it explains exactly what I told on the special editions of my books, that I'm encouraging others to look into writing your memoirs, and also come up with your pricing, announced pricing schedule. And so it's online. And now my blog is actually my version of staking a claim on my ideas right now, in 2025. And so if you go to my blog, and you get some, there's one that's later, one of the latest ones has a part 1 of 2 and a part 2 of 2. If you feed that to your AI, you can ask for summaries and ask questions. If your AI is usually AIs would be able to read entries, right? Online entries. And then you don't have to read everything that I've included on my blog. Not unless you're maybe an author, or maybe a professor of economics, then or you want your students to study whatever I've been showing. So yeah, you can go to my blog and just copy the address of the page, and then feed it to your AI, and then ask your AI questions, and There is no way that my AI, which is ChatGPT, would lie to me and give you a different reaction. It's going to be whatever ChatGPT reacted to me in a positive way. It's exactly the same that you're going to get. Okay. Now, there's my email address, and there's my blog. And if you want the subject line to be more specific, then you put it in there. I've been paying for Gmail, so I can receive like more than 1 million emails. Okay, don't lead me to websites, because I'm not going to click those, because I don't want to infect my computer. Now, if you want to request for a Zoom meeting, that's fine. If you want to refer me to somebody else, I'll give you a finder's fee. Okay, so yeah, make sure you make an arrangement with me. Okay. Now, if you lost money from way back from another investment, like what happened to you on October 10, yeah, let me know too, because I don't know where I don't have money right now, but who knows, right? And I'd like to be able to help as many people as I can. So there's a lot of possibilities in the future. Okay. Now, for the body, just give me some information about yourself and your contact information. Obviously, I would have your email address, right? And if you want to get into Zoom meeting, that's good too. Okay. And I also have a Facebook account, a Meta account, so we can do FaceTime as well. We can do conference over there. Okay, so let me stop this recording, and then I'll let you. I'll share with you a few others. Okay. So remember, we talked about Michael Saylor being the boy in the dike in comics. So let me just show you a few more. Okay. So besides that, this is how I see Wall Street bets. This is like Wall Street bets is like Jack and the Beanstalk economics. Okay, why do I see it that way? Why would you take your cow and get fair price taking the cow to the market when you can actually just exchange it for a few magic beans, so you can get on an adventure which would be more than the cow's worth, right? So you go climb up the beanstalk and come down with a bag of gold, and you go back there and get the magic hen, the hen that lays the golden eggs. And then you go up there and come back down with the magic harp. So that's Wall Street bets, if you ask me. Okay. Now, there's something else that I like to. Well, obviously, I consider myself to be like, what do you call that? Rumpelstiltskin. So I would say the idea is to spin straw into gold almost overnight, so that you can match the exponentially increasing liabilities that you have. Okay. And that's Rumpelstiltskin economics. Okay, aside from now, these are the sadder images that I come up with. The match girl economics. A lot of us are doing this right now. It's not fun. So the little match girl, she's supposed to be selling her matches, but at the same time, she was using it to warm herself, right? And that's not healthy. It's like you can interpret this many ways. Do not when you're hard up, you do things that that would be like really self-defeating, you know. Now, aside from the little match girl, there's also the mirror economics, wherein we have some leaders that are thinking that they're just doing fine, and the rest of the people are just doing fine, and they're really just looking at themselves in the mirrors, and they're not doing anything to help everyone else, right? That's not right. So I call that the magic mirror economics. And then there's the Wizard of Oz economics, wherein we tend to listen to other people, and we think that they're smart and they're giving us advice and whatever, and all they're doing is pretending to be smart. So that's not good either. Now, the bad part is something that I call the blockbuster economics. So what's the blockbuster economics? Okay. It's when, you know what the blockbuster is, right? It's a movie that's so hot, that's so good, that you're willing to line up and go around the block, lining up just to see the movie. And so the thing with blockbuster economics is you want to see the good people get burned and get into as much trouble as possible, just so you can see redemption later on and be really satisfied with the happy ending, right? That's not healthy for real life. That's only good for movies. But a lot of us have this attitude where we kind of a good number of people would like to see the economy, for example, like really crash in a really bad way. And that's like Titanic, the movie Titanic, where everyone's on the same boat and patting each other in the back and praising each other and saying they're in a good situation. But all you need to happen, just so everyone sinks together, is one single iceberg. That's not healthy either. Okay. So that's why I would caution people, if you see yourself like suffering in a really bad way, okay, make sure that you get into something that would help you. Don't wait for the worst thing to happen to you. You make sure that you save yourself before the worst things happen, right? Now, this is the last action hero economics, right? Blockbuster economics. Do you remember that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and this kid from the real world goes has some magic ticket and gets himself into the movie world, right? And he knew what was going to happen in every situation because he's seen it before. And so the characters from the movie world weren't believing him until the point when Arnold Schwarzenegger actually got himself into the real world, and they were able to solve the problem, right? So that kid reminded me of me, so like I have this thing, I have this vision, and I hope that it happens. I hope that everyone succeeds, but there might be a chance where no one would want to listen to what I have, right? So that's the Last Action Hero movie. And I was watching it a few weeks ago. And I was kind of like, oh my God, this is like one of my blockbuster economics. Okay, so here's the bad part. And this is what I call Noah's Ark economics. And the reason I find it, I'm telling you it's bad, is because we're at a point right now in the economy worldwide wherein it's not funny anymore. You know, you have to make sure that you are able to survive and save yourself. You know? So just because you're neighbors with Noah doesn't mean that Noah's going to help you. And just because you know about this, for example, doesn't mean that if you don't use it for yourself, you know, if you don't use my idea or my approach or my ability to be able to help whoever, you know, whoever wants help from me and cooperates with me and stuff, you know. We don't want to be ending up in drowning in the flood. Okay, so that's why I wanted to show you this, you know, because we're way past Rumpelstiltskin economics right now. We're in the realm of Noah's Ark economics. It's worse, and we have blockbuster economics as well. You know, we want to see the worst to happen first before we are able to save ourselves. Now there's something else, and this is exactly what's going on with ourselves right now. It's the Faustian economics. You know what it is. Some people would sacrifice them. It's not even sacrifice. You know, they'd get into a deal. You know, they pray to the wrong god, right? They would pray to the wrong whatever entity, and they may be successful for a while. You know, but you have to remind yourself, and also if you're following your leader and your leader is bad, right? You have to remind yourself that the hell is actually filled with followers and not with leaders. You know where the leaders would be in hell? I don't know. Maybe they have a special room, like at the airport. You know, there's a special room for people who pay a lot more. Okay, so or maybe there's a special place for like Vegas. You know, people who are high rollers would have a special room, right? So that's Faustian economics. You have to be very, very careful who you associate with, right? Because they can lead you to stray, you know, and you might say you're only following orders, but you're not. You know, you're actually getting yourself into trouble in more than what's going on. You know, you just have to be careful. Okay, that's exactly what I was saying.
Get ready to be bedazzled by the glamour of the 1950s with a twist of the future. Meet our breathtaking porcelain fashion doll crafted by the brilliant Valentino Zubiri. She's not just a doll, she's a time-traveling fashionista from the 1950s space age. Dressed in an avant-garde embroidered multicolored dress, her ensemble sparkles with futuristic flair. Her makeup is a masterpiece of otherworldly beauty, and her fantastic hairdo defies gravity itself. Against a backdrop of dazzling space-age design, she struts with grace and poise, capturing the essence of an era that dreamed of the stars. Each movement is a dance of elegance, bringing you a slice of cosmic chic. This isn't just a fashion statement, it's a journey through time and imagination. A doll that stands at the intersection of history and fantasy, ready to grace your collection with unparalleled sophistication. Are you ready to take a step into this enchanted cosmos? The 1950s space-age fashion doll awaits. Get ready to be bedazzled by the glamour of the 1950s with a twist of the future. Meet our breathtaking porcelain fashion doll crafted by the brilliant Valentino Zubiri. She's not just a doll, she's a time-traveling fashionista from the 1950s space age. Dressed in an avant-garde embroidered multicolored dress, her ensemble sparkles with futuristic flair. Her makeup is a masterpiece of otherworldly beauty, and her fantastic hairdo defies gravity itself. Against a backdrop of dazzling space-age design, she struts with grace and poise, capturing the essence of an era that dreamed of the stars. Each movement is a dance of elegance, bringing you a slice of cosmic chic. This isn't just a fashion statement, it's a journey through time and imagination. A doll that stands at the intersection of history and fantasy, ready to grace your collection with unparalleled sophistication. Are you ready to take a step into this enchanted cosmos? The 1950s space-age fashion doll awaits.